my name is Angelica, and this is the Angelica Unfiltered channel where I talk about health, wellness, weight loss, but mostly fat acceptance. Today I'm switching it up a little bit. I listened to the Khloe Kardashian podcast with Remi Bader, so you didn't have to, so please enjoy the summary. I will be kind of like adding in some of my opinions as we go, but at the end I will share more of my thoughts and feelings regarding this podcast, but also kind of like the body positive movement and people being outraged on the internet, because, you know, I have something to say about that always. I have my laptop right here, so I will be reading off of that, but I will try and make eye contact with you because that is something I am working on. At the beginning of the podcast, they really don't do any sort of introductions. I think you just have to come into this podcast kind of knowing who Remi Bader is. Remi says that she hasn't been on a podcast in quite some time. At the beginning of her social media career, she did a lot more podcasts because she loves to talk, but she stopped doing them over time because she was receiving a lot of shit online, especially relating to her body, so it seems like she kind of put up a wall, and she stopped talking about her health, which is something that she points out in particularly. Then Khloe goes on to talk about the importance of setting boundaries with people online. Remi agrees that this is very important and reflects about how in the past she used to share like every single detail of her life. Khloe talks about how they met in 2021, 2022 at a Good American event. Good American is a clothing brand that Khloe Kardashian owns. Khloe says that over time it seems like Remi has changed and she almost has like fuck you energy now, which is something that Khloe is also trying to embrace. Remi talks about how there has been like a lot of change in her energy, and that's not just because of her physical differences. She has lost a significant amount of weight, but it seems like she's been doing like a lot of work internally as well. So now they start to get into the meat and potatoes. Remi starts to talk about how she knew at some time she would have to address her weight and like her weight loss journey, but she needed to keep it private for herself, but she still like wanted to be able to talk about it in hopes that it would help people that were like struggling or like in a similar position as her. Khloe talks about how she prefers to talk about things after she's processed them and not like in the heat of the moment. Remi talks about how like this situation has been like kind of eating her alive because so many people have been leaving comments asking about her weight and what she has done to lose weight. This was not mentioned in the podcast, but I've heard people talk about how Remi was heavily monitoring her comments and deleting a lot of comments. I've heard that she's also blocked people when they've asked questions, you know, like asking if she got the sleeve or if she's doing Ozempic. And I feel like I've seen a lot of people online acting like they have been deceived because of her weight loss. But from what I understand, still showing some clips on social media that she's been losing weight or like going to the gym and eating healthily. Remi starts to talk about how she made a video in September of 2023 that she no longer wanted to talk about her health and weight. I'll insert that video here because it has been and it still will be referenced in the podcast.
I really try to not look at the really mean things online the best that I can because it really saves my mental health by not looking at it. But there's some things that like come up in my comments that I can't not see, and there's been a ridiculous amount lately of just like the body shaming and saying things I already know. Like I don't need to hear it again. So like saying things like it's like how much bigger I got and how much weight I've gained and how unhealthy I look and whatever it is. So I've definitely changed my mind because I really was, felt like it was helpful to other people to help by sharing my health journey and what I'm doing for myself with the world, because I think that that could be helpful with people going through similar struggles. I decided tonight that I'm no longer going to do that. My health journey will now be my business. Now I want to, and that's who I am, and that's why I'm on social media, is share with the world everything going on in my day-to-day, because I feel like that's just so true to me. But I don't know why it's even allowed online. Shaming someone and the way they look and how every single day is so disgusting. And so it's like, if I'm already taking care of myself and working on the things I need to work on, imagine seeing that every fucking day over and over and over, and in a horrible way. You're not, the people that are saying it aren't people that want good for me. You can pretend you want good for me, but it's actually people that just want the worst for me, and it's just fun for them to keep making fun of me and do it publicly. I know a lot of you, especially my Q&As and whatever it is, like are always asking about my health journey, want me to share. I share openly what medications I'm on with my anxiety medicine and things that haven't worked for me in the past. Like I've like shared a freaking lot with a lot of people that I don't need to. And I do that because I care, but I'm now going to do what's best for me, and I'm going to keep that to myself. And any questions that anyone has about my health or my weight or my journey, unless you are a close friend of mine and genuinely care about me, you're not going to know that. So I just had to say that before I go to sleep tonight, because it's very, very hard. It's really hard to see this every single day. And like, it's really not fair to just see really mean things. Like, I'm taking care of myself the best I can. And I really am asking the people, even if you don't like me or follow me out of a hate follow, to just stop commenting on my body. You can comment about my character, whatever you think of me as a person, or I'm annoying or whatever it is, but please just stop commenting on my body, because I'm doing everything I can to make myself feel better. And I just need, and I'm not gonna share anymore with you guys. It's just my decision.
Remi talks about how she's always had problems with her weight, but in the span of like 2020 to 2023, she gained anywhere from 80 to 100 pounds over those 3 years, which I think is very relatable to a lot of people, because obviously like that is when the lockdown happened. I know I also did gain a lot of weight during that time. Remi starts to talk about like the side effects that she had from putting on all this weight and, you know, becoming obese. She talks about how her back went out. There were moments she just had to be on bed rest because her back was in so much pain. Her knees were constantly hurting. Her knees went out. She was dripping sweat. She was always so hot. She started having her period constantly, which she didn't say she has PCOS, but I feel like that's kind of like a symptom, or I've heard a lot of people with PCOS say that. In another podcast she went on a couple years ago, I think it was the Not Skinny Not Fat podcast, she talks about insulin resistance, so that makes me like also think maybe she has or had PCOS. And while going to the doctor talking about like her period and stuff, her doctor said that she is becoming infertile, which was kind of like a tipping point to Remi later in the podcast, but I'm just adding it here. She also mentioned that she had a fatty liver. Remi said that she thought the September 2023 update, you know, the video saying that she was not going to talk about her health anymore, would kind of be like a saving grace for her, but she feels like no one has been talking about that video or is like recognizing the struggles that she had when she was so overweight. So Remi starts to talk about like her history with weight and dieting. She says like as a kid, her and her mom would like always go on little weight loss diet plans together, which is something that like my family and I also did. Those crash dieting behaviors also continued with her as an adult, but it seems like around like the pandemic time, or maybe she says like 2019 is like when she started to develop like some sort of like binging problem. She talks about like how she feels like she has literally tried everything to get her weight and her eating and her health under control. At one point she did a 6-week binge program. She went to Overeaters Anonymous. It seems like she's been on Ozempic twice from what I've understood. The first time she went on Ozempic, it was for pre-diabetes, and she said she only lost about 10 pounds and she stopped because it was making her feel sick. But then she went ahead and tried again, but it didn't really do anything. Her last ditch effort was to try Mounjaro, which it did seem like it curbed her appetite. When she got off of it, she said she gained even more weight back, and it was almost like a band-aid solution rather than a good treatment for her binge, because she wasn't doing like the proper therapy and lifestyle changes. And she always talked about like how sick she always felt when she was on these medications, so I'm like, I wonder if she like ate too much on the medications, which always made her sick, or if it was just like the side effects. After all of that, Remi says she finds the bariatric side of TikTok, and it seems like a lot of the women that she's watching mostly had these sleeves, but she was scared to get the sleeve, or I guess like any sort of bariatric surgery, because of her following. She even contemplated waiting to do one of these surgeries until like she wouldn't be as relevant, and she was scared of the backlash that she would receive if she did potentially get one of these surgeries. She ended up inquiring with a doctor about the gastric sleeve, and the doctor was like, you know, that really wouldn't be the best for you, because if you get a sleeve, if you are constantly overeating and binging, it can stretch your stomach back to like a normal size. So he recommended her getting the 𝒶𝑑I surgery, which is another type of like gastric bypass surgery. And she talks about like how people were speculating she was doing Ozempic or she got the sleeve, which is something that she didn't do. To be honest, like it just felt like fucking semantics, because it's like a lot of people like use like the sleeve or like the surgery as like a synonym for like any sort of gastric bypass surgery. So for her to be like, I didn't get the sleeve, it's like, okay girl, like you got a different fucking surgery. It's like apples and oranges. Choosing her words very wisely, I will say that. So she goes ahead with the surgery, and she says she has a super bad reaction to the surgery, which is not normal at all. It seems like she struggled for about 6 weeks after the surgery, when her surgeon said like she should only have to be in pain for like a day and then she'd like kind of go back to normal, which I feel like is kind of like misleading, because the gastric bypass surgeries are literally life altering. Like they're fucking taking your organs out or modifying your organs in some sort of way. She was vomiting, she couldn't keep down any water, and she was like so sick and like couldn't take care of herself, to the point where she ended up moving in with her parents because they were so concerned. She said she was was super sick. She couldn't eat. She started to become very depressed, and she says she would just like stare at the wall, and she said she like contemplated her life and no longer wanted to live because of how ill she was feeling. She talks about how she started to regret her decision and she didn't want to let her fan base down. Even though she says she doesn't preach body positivity, she still talked about how uncomfortable she was in her body and all the struggles that she was facing, but she believes that anyone can be confident no matter what they look like. And I know she's kind of like talked about it in the past in multiple interviews. I think she's even been in magazines talking about how she never wanted to be the face of the body positive movement, but like the content she created kind of like pushed her in that bubble, or like she accidentally garnered that kind of community even though that wasn't her intentions. So from my understanding, it seems like she went and got the surgery like December 2023, and she says she got this strictly for her health. And since then, her blood work is now completely normal. It hasn't been in over 5 years. Genetically, she has a very bad back, but has not been on bed rest or have any sort of injury since then. Her knees are feeling a lot better. She's no longer in pain. She no longer sweats like she used to. She has a normal period and she has so much more energy. And Khloe goes on to points out that all of these things are usually like something you can't see. You know, when you aren't taking care of your health or, you know, losing weight, you are doing things that are like kind of like slowly unaliving yourself. When you make the changes to like take care of yourself, people kind of like only see like the weight loss and like the outside when like so many things are happening like internally with your health. Remi talks about how she did not want to lose weight this rapidly. She even talks about how she called her doctor like talking about how she did not want to lose weight this fast and she wanted it to stop. Megan Ann talked about in her video about how like there's some sort of like grace period when you get these gastric surgeries from like 9 to like 12 months. The weight just fucking flies off and you can't do anything about it. But then there is like this period when your body starts to get used to the modifications and it kind of like, I don't want to say like plateaus or stalls out, but like the weight isn't dropping as quickly. It's more of a personal responsibility to implement healthier lifestyle habits to keep the weight off or continue to keep losing weight. Remi talks about how she still like wanted to have a little bit of curves, and later in the podcast she also claims that she is kind of upset that she isn't as curvy as she used to be and she misses her curves, and like she says she has like no ass anymore and she used to like really love her ass, like that was one of her favorite body parts of herself. This part like, was like kind of contradicting, but I also like understand what she means at the same time. She felt like she was losing her identity because of the weight loss, but also at the same time she wasn't big enough to be a plus size model like, you know, like at the beginning of her career. But then when she got super big, she was too big to do stuff with certain brands or designers. When she mentions this, I just like the first thing that comes to my mind is like the horseback riding story, but I assume like she's also talking about like modeling projects, stuff like that, not just like the physical limitations that she has because of her weight. Remi starts to talk about how she doesn't understand or like know how she's supposed to be discussing all of these topics when she's still trying to figure out her thoughts and feelings around the subjects herself. She says something along the lines that like, you know, like people look to influencers as idols and like take their word as gospel, and it just feels like so much responsibility. And she doesn't want to be put in the box of like being a weight loss influencer, especially because she had such a bad experience in recovery, but now it's been like a year and she's doing phenomenal. She doesn't want to feel the pressure or like she doesn't want to carry the responsibility of like potentially influencing people to or to not get weight loss surgery. And she mentions that she has lost about 140 pounds in less than a year, which is fucking insane. So Khloe starts to go on and talk about how she has also tried everything under the sun when it comes to controlling her weight and eating, but she doesn't go into detail. You know, the Kardashians, they can't like be 100% honest or like tell all of the truth. Like they just have to give you like a breadcrumb and then you just have to assume from there. But Khloe talks about how, you know, great it feels to binge in the moment, like when you're doing it, but then as soon as it ends, there's so much regret later, but then you do it all over again the next day. Khloe talks about how she didn't go to Overeaters Anonymous, but she tried to work through all of this in therapy, and she now says she controls her binging through workouts. LOL. Khloe says it's taken her about 10 years to get where she is now. Khloe feels like she's actually more insecure now that she's thin than when she was like a little bit bigger or chubbier, and it almost seems like she always finds something new that she needs to fix. Khloe says something along the lines like, when you're thin and you get thinner, people shame you, but when you're fat and you get fatter, then you still get shamed. There really feels like there is no winning. Remi asked Khloe if she made any sort of announcement like she has to do with her weight weight now. And Khloe said no, she didn't really have to, because when she started this journey, it's just when like Twitter and Instagram came out and people weren't as ballsy and as intrusive as they are nowadays. But she did start getting a lot of comments talking about how like they missed the old Khloe because she was so much funnier. People would always talk about how they like the fat Khloe better, and that really hurt her feelings. And she says people say things like, you let people down by losing weight. Khloe talks about the importance of not letting yourself down and not like placing the opinions of other people like on a pedestal. Khloe thinks it's responsible to share your story at the right time, but also says like fuck you to all the people who claim that when she tells people like how she lost weight, they don't think she's telling the truth, or people claim that she's lying about how she actually has lost weight. Khloe actually warns Remi that people will start speculating how she lost weight. Khloe tells a fragment of truth and says that she admits that she got her nose done, but people will say, and question mark, like they know that she got more done, but she doesn't want to admit to other procedures. Remi talks about how she always looked up to Khloe, and like Khloe was like her favorite Kardashian sister when growing up. Obviously a little bit of that was because she was curvier, but also she felt seen or like connected with Khloe's like funny and bold personality. Remi talks about how when she started seeing Khloe lose weight, she wasn't like angry and hostile like it seems like a lot of people are towards her and other celebrities or influencers that lose weight. Remi says, if anything, I was like, damn. And she starts to talk about like how she wondered like if she could do the same thing too. Like, oh, it's almost like she was like kind of like inspired. And then Khloe talks about how if you talk about like your weight loss journey or your health journey, then like some people will be impressed, but like some people will be bitter. I'll like insert a clip of that because I kind of like really liked it.
And everyone's on their own journey. If you care to be on that weight loss health journey, then great, maybe it will inspire and motivate someone. But if some people just aren't there yet mentally, then they will use that as, you know, it's going to be weaponized against you, as opposed to encouraging someone and motivating them. So it's really just where that person's at, because that's why people talk. Either they don't want to get it together, or they don't care to figure that part out for them, and that's okay too.
Khloe claims that people think it's all about aesthetics, but in reality, people don't want to lose weight or go to the doctor because they are scared to hear bad information, or in my opinion, like the honest truth, which people deem as bad. Remi admits that when she used to go to the doctor in the past, like when she was bigger, she'd get very defensive, but she now understands that now she like wasn't in the right head place, or like she wasn't there ready to start like her weight loss or health journey. But Remi makes sure to disclaim that she still does believe that anyone could be bigger and happier and healthy, but it just seems like, you know, it's just like not the right thing for her. Playing the defense a little, if I will say, you know, because a lot of people don't want to come out and say the cold, hard, honest truth, which is being obese or being overweight leads to a lot of health complications. Khloe talks about how she has bigger friends that are completely healthy and they have like, you know, all these great health markers, and you know, they can do everything just like me and you, but Khloe cares about the internals more than the aesthetics, which is just like golden. Because we know of like the Kardashians always like portraying this picture perfect image and getting all the surgeries and the photoshopping and blah blah blah. But also at the same time, like I could see her like kind of being a hypochondriac. I'm pretty sure Khloe has talked about like struggling with OCD. Khloe then talks about how people speculated that she got a surrogate for one of her children. I assume it's like her youngest, because she did not want to ruin her body. But she claims that she was unable to carry her son, and she even had her doctor be filmed for the Kardashian reality TV shows, stating that she was at very high risk. And of course, doctors cannot lie, even if they're being paid to be on television. Her words, not mine. Khloe then talks about how people only retain information that fit their narrative, and you need to do you. I'll also insert that clip because I think it's like a pretty decent quote. I mean, sometimes Khloe has some wisdom spit at us, okay?
People will only retain what they care to retain that fits their narrative in their head. It's not about you anymore.
Yeah.
And so you just have to keep living your truth and just know that you're doing the right thing and you're working on your happiness every day.
Yeah.
Because we all are. You're not the only one.
Remi talks about how she has experienced a lot of huge life changes and has to implement a lot of different healthy habits to make sure she doesn't get sick. She has to have 120 grams of protein every day. She has to drink so much water. She has to take 20 vitamins. Remi also says that the Sadie surgery is one of like the newer gastric bypass surgeries, so she's scared to talk about it. I believe it came out in like 2017, so it is newer compared to other surgeries, but it is less than 10 years old. There are some some people being like, this is not a new surgery. It's been out since 2017. It's like the surgery is like relatively new compared to like a lot of other things in the medical field. Khloe starts to talk about this housewife, Heather Gray, which I think is from Salt Lake City. You know, Heather talks about her experience on Ozempic and how she feels like she's been treated so much differently since she's lost weight. And Heather has talked about like her experience of how people used to treat her worse when she was bigger. And Khloe talks about like how she still feels very bitter about the past and how people treated her when she was bigger. And that's still top of mind when she gets invited to events that people are hosting that used to talk shit about her. And she's like, I'm not gonna fucking go to your event, fuck you. You were mean to me. Remi feels pretty similar, and Remi talks about how like losing weight has almost become like a social experiment to her. Like she talks about how people will say like, oh my god, you look so much happier now. And then she'll be like, why do you say that? Like, explain that to me. And then she also talks about how like when she was super big, she was not getting a lot of male attention, but now she's getting so much of it. While Remi has lost so much weight, she emphasizes that she still cares about body inclusivity. Just because she's lost weight doesn't mean that like that's going to be on the back burner for her. Like it's still something that's very important to her. And she said she just started a brand that goes up to a 6X, which is something like I don't know much about. That's like the only time that she mentions it at all in this podcast. Remi goes on to talk about her first relationship. So it seems like she started dating her first boyfriend at 27, and she said that they were together for under 2 years. And at the beginning, she says that she gained 40 pounds, but that was confusing because at the beginning of the podcast, she said from 2020 to 2023, she gained 80 to 100 pounds. So maybe she gained like 40 to 60 of that before she started dating the person and then gained an additional 40. Just something I was thinking about. So it seems like they were together, from my understanding, like 2022 to 2024. And she says they broke up about a year ago. And Remi still feels a lot of anger around the relationship, especially for like the girl that was going through all of that. She said that she thought her boyfriend loved her for her, but like looking back and reflecting, she doesn't know if that's like necessarily actually the case. Remi starts to talk about how one thing that she really hates saying online is that, you know, she lost weight because she wanted this revenge body, or like this journey has become like breakup weight loss, which is like really funny because Khloe actually used to have this show called Revenge Body, which I don't know if Remi knew that or if she like accidentally said that.
I want to clear up that what I see online, what I've seen that has bothered me is revenge body, your breakup weight loss. Like, oh wow, it took you a
like
breakup.
This was for him.
That's all I see.
Oh.
And I'm like,
that's annoying.
Absolutely not,
Right.
though.
But Remi says that that's not true, and she decided to lose weight and got the surgery for herself and her health. Then she starts to talk about the relationship a little bit more. It's kind of like a story time situation type deal. Remi decides that she is going to get this 𝒾𝓃𝓀𝓈 surgery, and she's not asking for her boyfriend's approval. She's telling him, she's like, I'm getting this motherfucking surgery. She's like, do you have anything to say about that? You know, like she's trying to like have a conversation or like explain what's going on. She claims he didn't want to say anything and say the wrong thing, which I don't blame him because weight is very taboo, but I feel like especially for women, it is a very sensitive subject. And I feel like he probably didn't want to say anything like positive or negative. This is her boyfriend, so I assume like he kind of like has heard her bitch and moan about things that people say about her and her body, which I don't blame him for not wanting to say anything. So, you know, over time, she feels like this relationship has been changing. You know, she says that they're not having sex as much as she thinks that people in a relationship would be having sex. She feels like her boyfriend is like starting to gaslight her. And I think like a month later, you know, he ends up like coming clean and confessing like, yeah, you know, like I'm not really attracted to you anymore because of your weight gain. She got really mad because he didn't say something for such a long time, which I honestly don't blame him for, because I feel like that'd be such a difficult conversation to have. And she said at that moment she felt so betrayed and like he was just like any other person on the internet that has like given her any sort of like hate or critique for gaining weight. And she ends up like breaking up with him and saying like, get the fuck out of my apartment, I don't want to be with you, I don't want to see you. It seems like some people in her life like kind of like try to talk some sense into her. Her parents were like, you know, maybe he just like wants what's right for you and like he wants you to get healthy and he still wants to be with you. He was just sharing his honest opinions that like you put on weight and he doesn't find that attractive. It's not as like evil and like betraying as she's making it out to be. So he ended up like begging to like come back and like be in a relationship together, and he was saying things like, you know, I want to grow old with you, I want to be 80 years old and playing pickleball, and she's like, we never even played pickleball. I don't know why he said that. They only broke up for like about a week. Like, this wasn't announced publicly, so no one else like really knew. Tries to like explain her ED and like binging and like everything that's going on and like why she's getting the surgery, but it seems like he doesn't really like understand like that it's a mental health condition, and he keeps like talking about like how this isn't normal, and she's like, yeah, I know it's not fucking normal, that's why I'm trying to get the surgery and figure out my life. Remi says she starts to become like distant into the relationship, and he like tries to be like more involved. She's kind of like put her guard up, and you know, he's like said some things that kind of like rub her the wrong way, like, I can't wait for you to lose some weight so I can just throw you around in bed. And you know, at the time she feel like she let herself down because she was supposed to be like this no BS type of gal, but this relationship made her lose so much confidence. Remi still feels like she's very angry about her relationship, especially in regards of her weight. Then Remi says like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say until I put this all out there, relationship, surgery, everything. I didn't realize how much this would affect me because I'm so open, and it just feels like I've been walking on eggshells for such a long period of time. She's hoping that like when this gets posted, it's almost like a new chapter, where like a chapter is shut and like a new one is starting to open. And then Khloe says something wise, like Remi should be a beacon of light for people, and she should just be honest about like everything that she's been through, and maybe she will find a new community of people that will support her and her past and her journey and stuff like that. Then the podcast kind of ends. I'm hoping that was shorter than the podcast, but okay, the podcast was an hour and 6 minutes long, so hopefully I trimmed like a little bit down for you guys, okay? So now for my opinion. Opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has them and they all stink. And hopefully you guys are watching this video because you like me and my stinky butthole. Just kidding, my butthole is not stinky. I don't sit on the corner of a sink edge working on a washcloth. If you know, you know. So I will be honest, like, I'm not a Remi expert or like a Remi stan. I just know of her like very briefly because of being in the plus size community, but then also like her controversies in the past. I just feel like this situation is kind of like a double-edged sword. Of course, like coming from an outsider's perspective, it is so easy for me to be like, well, she should have done this, this, and this, and this instead. I obviously have no idea what it's like to be Remi and have her career and her following and, you know, experience binging and, you know, gaining that much weight. In my opinion, like, for some reason, like, I could go in the past and be like her PR expert. It seems like a lot of her fans or like people on the internet that are just jackasses and want to be mad about something are so pressed because she did not explain like exactly everything that she was doing to lose weight, and that's why they feel so deceived about her weight loss. And I do understand like she wanted to keep a lot of things private. You know, there was that video September 2023 that she had that she was no longer going to be talking about her health, which I think is a smart thing to do because, you know, if she did come online and post a TikTok about like every single thing that she's researching or contemplating, the opinions of others just get so loud. And I do respect the need for privacy and her not wanting to like air out every single dirty little secret or like every fucking second of the day. But I think it would have been good for her to disclose at a later period of time, not now, you know, almost a year and a half later. You know, if she did get the surgery December 2023, you know, like even like 3 to like 6 months after, I feel like it still would have been like a good thing for her to be like, hey guys, I just want to let you know that I got the surgery. I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to, you know, hear the opinions of other people. Kind of related, I follow Rosie Beam. She is like a former fat activist and she's like a plus size influencer. She recently made like a fitness, health, wellness Instagram. Talked about recently how she had to stop taking DMs or like close her inbox because people were like flooding her inbox with like unsolicited advice or like trauma dumping. Rosie has discussed like being on Ozempic and struggling with weight and insulin resistance, and I think sometime in April she's going to like meet a gastric surgeon, or she's like about to get one of the gastric surgeries. And you know, so many people were like bombarding her with like trauma dumping and, you know, unsolicited advice, and Rosie has like still a pretty big audience, not as big as Remi's, and I could not imagine what her DMs would be flooded with if she was like, hey guys, I'm contemplating getting this surgery in hopes to control my binge eating. Like, I would be so overwhelmed with how many DMs and information people would be bombarding me with, you know, if I were an any of their shoes. But I also think like one of the problems with content creation is that like not everyone sees every single thing that you post unless like you're a stan or you're someone that like constantly keeps up with like certain influencers. You know, like Remi says that she posted that video in September 2023 like in hopes to like be a saving grace, or like, you know, stating like I'm no longer going to be talking about my health anymore. And I'm not sure how many people like actually saw that video, and if they did, like that information like still kept top of mind. It seems like she still like was posting about like creating like a healthier lifestyle, or I guess like just the changes that she's been implementing. Again, I don't keep up with her, but I watched Megan Ann's video, Sam at Every Size, and Nadia's video about the situation, and from like the clips that I've seen from Remi's TikTok, it seems like she has been like talking about weight loss or like going to the gym and eating healthier and, you know, like kind of like keeping updates. And people were speculating in the comments about like, oh, if she's on Ozempic again, or if she got the surgery. And it's like, and Sam talked about this in her video, just like how the audience like wasn't deceived. Like you could visibly see Remi's weight loss happening, but for some reason like that either wasn't registering in people's mind, or people just wanted like every single nitty gritty detail about what was going on. And because Remi didn't come out and say that she had the surgery until now, people feel like they were being lied to, even though like, I don't know, like the proof is in the pudding. Like obviously getting weight loss surgery is very major, but besides getting that surgery, there are so many other healthy habits that you have to implement into your life to keep the weight loss going or to keep the weight off. And she did show every other aspect in her content. Like I already mentioned, she was showing food and working out and like all these other things. I understand why people are mad because she didn't disclose she got the Sadie surgery until like literally right now. And I think it is kind of annoying that she was blocking and like deleting comments speculating if she was using Ozempic or if she got the sleeve surgery. But also at the same time, it's like we are all adults here. Well, hopefully all of us are adults here, and we have like working frontal lobes, and like, you know, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Obviously she had to be doing something to lose a rapid amount of weight, and she didn't disclose the numbers up until now, but you can just see the huge physical differences between now and the end of 2023. But I guess it just happens with parasocial relationships. Like it's very unhealthy, and people just do demand like every single bit of detail about someone's life. And for some reason nowadays, like we can't just like infer that someone is doing something. But I also wouldn't think it's a bad thing for Remi to disclose earlier to her audience that she received weight loss surgery. But I also understand why she waited so fucking long to tell people, because she knew that she would receive so much backlash. But I almost feel like she made it worse for herself for waiting so long to talk about it. It kind of makes it worse that she went on Khloe Kardashian's podcast to talk about it, because the Kardashians are notorious for like hiding procedures or like lying or like giving a grain of truth instead of like completely being fully honest, which is very ironic. And one thing like I also really hate about the situation is the people making TikToks talking about like how she built her platform on the back of plus size people. Like hearing people say that like makes my fucking skin crawl, because for some reason it seems like they're acting like slaves. Like, you know, like Remi Bader has this giant empire and skyscrapers everywhere, and like all these plus size people were working all day and all night laying down bricks to make these fucking towers. And it's like, we have bodily autonomy and consent, and if you went out of your way to buy products that Remi promoted or Remi designed with certain brands, like that's on you, boo. You did that. They didn't force you. They didn't hold you with a pew pew to your head telling you that you had to fork over your credit card information. Like, you made the choice to support her as a creator. I wish people would not be so overly involved with content creators or celebrities and, you know, the media that they produce. It makes sense that over time people would like to change and evolve, and for some reason it's seen as like demonic or like literally evil to change your mind, or like, you know, just over time like people just fucking change, like preferences change, like circumstances change. But like if someone that you like does something that you don't agree with, they are now Satan. Like they are just demonized in a way that is like so uncanny. I was a Post Malone stan for a very, very long time. Probably like 3, 4, or 5 years. And you know, like when he started to make that transition from rap to rock and then to like country, I was like, you know, this is like no longer for me. I'm sorry, man. This is no longer for me. And you know what? Like, I let him go. You know, he was a butterfly in my hand and he flew away, which was fine. Sometimes people or content creators or like artists are just meant to be in our lives for a period of time. Like, we don't have to stick with them for the rest of our lives. You know, I mean, same thing for like friends too. Like, just because you love someone or cherish someone or like enjoy the art or the media that they create doesn't mean that they have to stay who you wish they were. As time goes on, like, people change. I'm not the same person as I was when I was 15 years old. Do you still want me to be Angelica from 13 years ago? She had no eyebrows, and she was also not very cool. I think we would just put up this like enormous pressure on people to like stay the same way when it's like, go look at your fucking self from 5 years ago. Do you think you have changed at all? All right, there we go. You have changed, so like give that same grace to literally every single other person. I mean, I guess it doesn't make me any better like that I'm like talking about the situation as well on YouTube, but it's like no one needs to be bombarded with so much like hate and critique at one time. Like, it is completely unnatural. Like, there has never been a point in time where someone can just hear so many opinions about themselves. Like, I can't, like, it just feels so overwhelming. I mean, not to compare it to like when I was canceled, but like I will, because like that's my lived experience. I mean, I got a fucking 1 million views on my video and I thought my world was ending. I thought everyone in the entire fucking world hated me for like a week, but then like obviously over time like you get over it. But you know, Remi's been in multiple controversies. Like, I can't even like imagine like how stressful the situation is, especially when, you know, she thinks, or I guess she knows, that she did something right for herself. She lost weight because she was incredibly unhealthy. And of course, you know, people are hating her for that. The world is so ass backwards sometimes, you guys. Like, hating someone for losing weight. If you said that 30 years ago, people would be like, what? Like, are you serious? Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Khloe said in the interview, if you talk about your journey online, you know, it might be inspiring to other people, but in other people it might cause rage because, you know, like, they're not mentally there yet. They might become defensive because they see your evolution as like some sort of reflection on their actions. I agree. You know, like, if you are so motherfucking upset, you should take that and sit with that. Why are you so upset that someone lost weight? Especially when their health was so horrible. Why do you care about a woman's weight? Why do you have so much opinion about what a woman does with their body? Ask yourself those questions. You should not care about someone's life that much. Remi Bader should care about her health and her weight. Maybe, yeah, her parents should care. I don't know if she has siblings, you know, her aunts and uncles, her grandma. Like, I don't know like what her family is made up of, but like those people should be concerned. You know, her friends and family. The opinions of those people should matter more than us random motherfuckers on the internet, okay? You know, like right now in internet culture and society, we're almost like starting to, I don't want to say like undo body positivity, because I do feel like there are some good things that came with like body positivity and like body diversity. Do I want to say the glorification of obesity, or like maybe like the reality of obesity is setting in and people are starting to make changes, which obviously upsets and triggers people that are still living in delusion and or are potentially hardships because of obesity related illness, or they're simply just assholes on the internet that want to like make a rage bait video and get some views and likes and clicks and comments and shares, because that is also an option. Like I say in all my videos, the internet loves hate and it loves drama. So we're always going to focus our energy towards negativity because we never celebrate the good things going on in people's life. Unless they like get married or it's their birthday or like they have a kid. Besides those like 3 events, we can only focus on chaos. We need to start rewiring our brain to focus on the good things happening in the world and have gratitude for the greatness that is life. So let me know your opinions down below. Did you follow Remi Bader before this? Are you a Remi Bader fan? How do you feel about Remi Bader waiting to share her weight loss journey until this very moment? If you were Remi Bader, would you have done things a little differently? Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like this video. And if you enjoy me, consider subscribing. I would appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Peace.